Deep within the heart of ancient Jerusalem, behind a heavy veil of purple and gold, sat an object so volatile it was treated less like a religious relic and more like a captured star. The Ark of the Covenant was never just a chest of acacia wood and gold. It was a physical anchor for the infinite, a literal throne where the presence of the divine rested between the wings of two golden cherubim. To the Israelites, it was the footstool of God, but to their enemies, it was a weapon of mass destruction that defied the laws of physics. The very air around the Ark was said to shimmer with a terrifying energy, a manifestation of the Shekinah glory that could guide a nation or level a city. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. To understand why this object remains the most sought-after treasure in human history, one must look at the trail of fire and wonder it left in its wake. Think of the walls of Jericho. For 6 days, the Israelite priests marched in total silence, the Ark leading the way like a silent golden engine of war. On the 7th day, the trumpets blared, and the Ark's energy seemed to surge in response to the sound. The stone walls didn't just crumble, they were leveled as if by a focused sonic blast, clearing the way for a conquest that changed the world. This was a demonstration of a power that occupied a space between the spiritual and the physical. However, this power was indifferent to human intent. Consider the tragic fate of Uzzah. As King David attempted to bring the Ark into Jerusalem, a simple stumble by an ox caused the chest to tilt. Uzzah reached out instinctively to steady the relic, his only goal being to protect the sacred gold from falling. The moment his skin made contact, he was struck dead by a flash of divine lightning. It was raw, unshielded power requiring absolute purity to approach. It was a throne that demanded distance. For centuries, this golden throne remained the heartbeat of the first temple, protected by King Solomon's architectural marvels and the watchful eyes of the high priests. It was the most guarded object on the planet, housed within the Holy of Holies, where only one man could enter once a year. But then, history reaches a terrifying, sudden silence. In 586 BC, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar descended upon Jerusalem like a storm of iron and fire. His armies breached the heavy walls, slaughtered the defenders, and systematically stripped the temple of every valuable possession. The Bible and Babylonian administrative records provide incredibly detailed inventories of the gold, the silver, and the bronze hauled back to Babylon as trophies of war. They listed every ceremonial bowl, every sacrificial spoon, and every decorative pillar. But the Ark, the single most valuable and powerful object in the entire kingdom, is never mentioned. It isn't listed as captured, it isn't listed as destroyed, and it isn't listed as hidden. It simply vanished from the pages of history amidst the smoke and the screams of a falling city. This disappearance created a historical vacuum that has consumed the minds of explorers and theologians for over 2,000 years. If Nebuchadnezzar had captured the Ark, he would have paraded it through the streets of Babylon as the ultimate symbol of his triumph. The fact that it does not appear in his victory spoils suggests a desperate, secret operation conducted in the final hours of the siege. Imagine the tension within the temple as the Babylonian battering rams echoed through the stone floors. The priests knew the end was coming. In those final, panicked moments, did they look at the mercy seat and realize they had to save the presence of God from invaders? The Ark was too heavy to move casually, requiring sanctified Levites. Yet when the dust settled, the Holy of Holies was empty. Someone must have smuggled it out through the labyrinth of tunnels beneath the city before the Babylonians could close the noose. But who possessed the true authority, and where could they hide it? The silence of God had begun, but the trail is not yet cold. The smoke of the Babylonian fires had barely cleared when the questions began to haunt the survivors of Jerusalem. If the ark was not carried away in chains to the ziggurats of the east, it must have remained within the very heart of the holy mountain. This leads us to one of the most compelling and enduring theories in archaeology, the secret chamber of King Solomon. To understand this theory, we must look beyond the gold and the cedar wood and into the mind of Solomon himself, a ruler whose wisdom was said to encompass the secrets of the heavens and the depths of the earth. Solomon was not merely a king of peace. He was a master architect who looked centuries into the future. Tradition holds that as he constructed the first temple on Mount Moriah, he received a divine warning that the magnificent structure would eventually be laid to waste by foreign hands. Knowing that no stone wall could forever hold back the inevitable tide of human conquest, Solomon reportedly designed a sophisticated failsafe, a hidden mechanical sanctuary deep within the limestone bowels of the mountain. Imagine a chamber built with such precision that it remained invisible and inaccessible to any who did not possess the knowledge of its operation. Legend describes a complex system of stone pulleys, counterweights, and hidden levers. A primitive but ingenious elevator that would allow the high priests to lower the ark into a lightless vault during times of extreme peril. When King Nebuchadnezzar's soldiers breached the inner sanctum, they found the Holy of Holies empty, not because the ark had been stolen or destroyed, but because it had literally descended into the earth. It was sealed away by a mechanism that left the floor above looking undisturbed. A masterpiece of engineering that traded visibility for absolute security. This was not a simple basement or a storage room. It was a labyrinthine fortress carved into the ancient bedrock of Mount Moriah, a site already steeped in spiritual significance as the foundation stone of the world. The tunnels beneath the Temple Mount are not mere myths or products of religious imagination. Modern excavations have revealed a subterranean world of vast cisterns, water conduits, and narrow corridors that stretch like a petrified stone web beneath the old city. In these shadows, the air is thick with the scent of damp earth, the chill of subterranean stone, and the crushing weight of 3,000 years of prayer and conflict. Throughout history, several individuals have claimed to have breached the silence of these depths and felt the pulse of the divine. One of the most chilling and well-documented accounts comes from 1981, during a period of archaeological exploration near the Western Wall. Rabbi Yehuda Getz, the overseer of the holy site, began clearing a subterranean hall known as Warren's Gate. As the debris of centuries was removed, he and his team discovered a sealed opening that seemed to lead directly toward the forbidden space beneath the dome of the rock, the very spot where the Holy of Holies was once situated. The witnesses who stood in that tunnel described a physical sensation that was impossible to dismiss. As they approached the ancient stone barrier, a profound sense of awe and a strange, vibrating energy seemed to permeate the cold air, echoing the biblical accounts of the ark's power. Rabbi Getz was convinced, to the very core of his being, that he was standing only a few feet away from the gold-covered chest. He believed that the ark sat patiently behind a wall of ancient masonry, protected by the mountain itself, waiting for the moment of its predestined return to the world. However, news of the excavation leaked, and the potential for a religious and political explosion was immediate and terrifying. The Temple Mount is the most sensitive piece of real estate on the planet, a site sacred to Jews, Muslims, and Christians alike. To dig beneath the Islamic shrines above was seen as an act of war, a move that could ignite a global conflict. Under intense pressure, the Israeli government ordered the tunnel to be permanently sealed with a thick wall of reinforced concrete. Today, that concrete remains a silent, immovable sentinel, blocking the path to what many believe is the ultimate discovery in history. The Ark of the Covenant may be resting just inches beyond reach, separated from the sunlight by a few layers of rock and a mountain of political tension. Why has no one forced the issue in the decades since? For some, it is the lingering fear of divine wrath, the memory of Uzzah and the thousands who perished for looking into the Ark's unshielded light. For others, it is the realization that the Ark is a catalyst for the end of the age. To find it would be to demand the rebuilding of the Third Temple, an act that would shatter the fragile peace of the Middle East. The mystery remains locked in the silence of the limestone, a golden ghost haunting the foundations of Jerusalem. But if the Ark truly remained in the city, how do we explain the persistent legends of its journey across the desert and over the horizons of the sea? If Solomon's vaults are empty, then the relic may have traveled much farther than anyone imagined, carried by the royal bloodline of the king himself toward the ancient lands of the south. The winds of history do not always blow through the stone corridors of Jerusalem. Sometimes they carry the scent of frankincense and the heat of the African sun. To find the next chapter of the Ark's Odyssey, we must turn our gaze away from the ruins of the Babylonian siege and toward the ancient highlands of Ethiopia, the land known as Kush. This is a story of royal bloodlines, a forbidden romance, and a heist that changed the world. It starts with the encounter between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. She was a ruler of immense wealth who traveled from the south to test the king's wisdom. Their meeting was more than a diplomatic exchange. It was a fusion of two worlds. According to the Kebra Nagast, their union produced Menelik Thus. Menelik Thede grew up in his mother's kingdom, but sought to meet his father as he reached manhood. He traveled back to Jerusalem, where Solomon recognized his features in the prince. However, the time came for Menelik to return to his people. Solomon ordered the firstborn sons of his high officials to accompany him. But these young men were devastated at the thought of leaving the presence of God. They conspired to steal the Ark from the Holy of Holies. They constructed a perfect wooden replica and left it in the center of the temple. The true Ark, the golden throne of the Almighty, was smuggled out of the city and vanished into the wilderness, shielded by desert. When King Solomon discovered the deception, it was already too late. The prince and his companions were moving with supernatural speed, aided by the power of the relic they carried. They followed the blue veins of the Nile until they reached the rugged sanctuary of the Ethiopian plateau. For centuries, the Ark was said to have been kept on the island of Tana Kirkos, hidden among monks, before finally being brought to the city of Axum. Here, myth shifts to reality. In the heart of Axum stands the Chapel of the Tablet, a small, unassuming building surrounded by an iron fence. Inside dwells the guardian of the Ark. The life of the guardian is one of the most profound sacrifices in the religious world. Once chosen, the monk is consecrated for life. He never leaves or speaks to outsiders. He alone is permitted to look upon the object hidden within the chapel. But this proximity comes at a devastating cost. Throughout the decades, those who saw departing guardians noted a disturbing pattern. These men quickly succumb to mysterious ailments. Many develop cataracts that steal their sight. Some speak of strange sores on their skin and a general wasting away of their strength, as if they are being slowly consumed by an unseen, internal fire. In the 1960s, this tradition caught the attention of modern investigators, notably Graham Hancock. During his travels, Hancock encountered a wall of silence that only deepened the mystery. He tracked the liturgical traditions and the ancient stone obelisks of Axum, finding evidence that the Falasha Jews of Ethiopia practiced a form of ancient Judaism that seemed to predate the Babylonian exile. The presence of the Ark would explain why this culture remained so deeply rooted in the traditions of the First Temple. Hancock's research suggested that the relic was not merely a symbol, but a physical reality that emitted a power humans were not meant to endure. Why do these guardians suffer such specific health failures? In modern terms, the symptoms described, the cataracts and the skin lesions, bear a chilling resemblance to the effects of prolonged exposure to high-energy radiation. If the Ark is indeed a divine instrument, its physical presence may be literally toxic to the human frame. The guardians are not just priests. They are living shields, absorbing the silent energy of the relic to protect the world outside. As we look at the quiet chapel in Axum, we wonder, is the Ark a gift, or is it a burden that consumes everything it touches? If its power is so volatile, how did it travel across the wilderness without leaving a trail of death? The mystery of the South suggests the Ark's influence reached far deeper into the heart of the continent than anyone admitted. Yet, while these legends grew, a different power was rising back in Jerusalem, where a new order of knights was about to begin a search that would change history. While the monks of Axum withered in the presence of their golden charge, a different shadow was stretching across the sands of the Holy Land. In 1118, centuries after the Ark vanished from the records, 9 French knights appeared before the King of Jerusalem. They called themselves the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, an order known simply as the Knights Templar. Their stated purpose was humble: to protect pilgrims slaughtered on the roads to the Holy City. However, their early actions told a different story, one of a secretive obsession. Instead of patrolling the mountain passes, these 9 knights established their headquarters within the Al-Aqsa Mosque, built atop the ruins of Solomon's Temple. For 9 long years, the order did not accept a single new member. They did not engage in the battles of the Crusades. Instead, they lived in a state of quiet seclusion, and according to historical accounts, they spent their days and nights in a frantic subterranean search. They were digging deep into the bedrock of the Temple Mount, carving through the limestone in search of the lost relic. Many believe their true objective was the recovery of the Ark of the Covenant, guided by ancient maps or scrolls they had acquired through mysterious and secretive channels. When the Templars finally emerged from their excavations and returned to Europe, their transformation was miraculous. These men, who had once lived in shared poverty, suddenly became the most powerful and wealthiest organization in the medieval world. They established an international banking system, owned vast tracts of fertile land, and were granted autonomy, answering only to the Pope. What could these 9 knights have discovered in the darkness beneath the Temple Mount that gave them such leverage over the kings of Europe? Many historians argue that it was not merely gold. It was an object of such power that it made the very foundations of the church tremble. The evidence of their discovery was never explicitly recorded, but it was etched into the architecture of the great cathedrals they helped fund. At Chartres Cathedral in France, a site of Templar influence, there is a curious carving on the portal. It shows the Ark on a cart with a Latin inscription, "Here is worked the Ark of the Covenant." It is a stone signature left in plain sight, a silent confession that the knights had recovered the throne of the Almighty and brought it into the heart of the Western world. But such power eventually breeds a deadly envy. By the early 14th century, King Philip the Fair of France, indebted to the order, conspired with a weak and compliant pope to destroy them once and for all. On Friday the 13th, in October 1307, the hammer fell. Templars across France were arrested, tortured, and burned at the stake. Yet the king's men found nothing of the ancient and legendary treasure. In the chaos, 18 ships slipped from La Rochelle under a midnight tide. They carried a cargo so precious that it could not be allowed to fall into the hands of a corrupt monarch. Their destination was the rugged and mist-shrouded hills of Scotland, a land where the influence of the Inquisition was weak, and the local lords were sympathetic to the fugitive knights. In the village of Roslin, south of Edinburgh, stands Roslin Chapel, a labyrinth of stone carvings that many believe acts as a coded map or a final fortress for the Ark. Built by the St. Clair family, who were closely tied to the Templar traditions, the chapel is filled with symbolic imagery that defies easy explanation. Within these walls, local lore persists that the Ark was moved into a secret vault beneath the floor, protected by the bloodline of the very knights who had rescued it from the fires of France. The air within the chapel remains heavy with the weight of these centuries-old secrets, a silent witness to a journey that may have taken the relic far beyond the boundaries of the known world. However, as the centuries turned, the trail grew cold. While the knights of Europe looked toward the north, a different and much older story was echoing through the deep wilderness of the African interior, where a tribe claimed to have carried the true voice of the divine for generations. While the mists of Scotland may hold the whispers of the Templars, a far older and perhaps more visceral echo resonates within the vast, sun-drenched savannas of southern Africa. In the remote regions of Zimbabwe and the northern reaches of South Africa, the Lemba tribe has long claimed to be the keepers of a divine and terrifying legacy. To the outside world, they appeared to be a traditional African community, yet their customs told a different story. They practiced male circumcision, adhered to strict dietary laws that forbade the consumption of pork, and followed a lunar calendar that mirrored the ancient traditions of the Levant. For centuries, they called themselves the Children of the Stars, maintaining that their ancestors had migrated from a city called Sina in the north, carrying with them a sacred object of immense power. This was not merely a tribal myth to be dismissed by colonial explorers. In the late 20th century, the world of science collided with the oral history of the Lemba in a way that left historians stunned. Geneticists conducted DNA testing on the tribe's men and discovered a remarkable biological signature known as the Cohen modal haplotype. This specific genetic marker is found primarily within the Jewish priestly class, the Kohanim, who are the direct patrilineal descendants of Aaron, the brother of Moses. The Lemba did not just have a cultural connection to Israel, they carried the very blood of the men tasked with guarding the Ark of the Covenant. This revelation transformed their oral traditions from folklore into a potential roadmap for one of history's greatest mysteries. The object the Lemba claim to have protected is not described as a glittering golden box, but as the Ngoma Lungundu, which translates to the drum that thunders. According to their legends, this was no ordinary musical instrument. It was a vessel of wood and hide, so holy that it could never be allowed to touch the ground. Just like the ark described in the Hebrew Bible, the Ngoma Lungundu was carried on long wooden poles by a chosen few. The Lemba elders speak of a time when the drum was used as a weapon of war, capable of emitting a sound so deafening and a fire so intense that it would strike their enemies dead where they stood. It was a machine of divine intervention, a mobile throne that vibrated with the presence of the Great Spirit. Critics might argue that a wooden drum is a far cry from the gold-plated relic of Solomon's temple, but a compelling theory suggests a strategic transformation. If the Ark were being smuggled thousands of miles through hostile territories, its golden exterior would have been a death sentence, attracting every bandit and warlord across the continent. To protect the essence of the relic, the gold may have been stripped away, or the inner wooden chest, the true heart of the Ark, might have been placed inside a larger, more inconspicuous casing. By camouflaging the divine weapon as a traditional drum, the priests could move the Ark in plain sight, hiding its true nature from those who would seek to steal it for its material wealth. The journey of the Ngoma Lungundu was one of constant movement and defensive warfare. As the Lemba migrated south, the relic was their compass and their shield. However, as the era of colonial expansion began to tear through the African interior, the danger reached a fever pitch. The tribe realized that if the drum fell into the hands of the invading European forces, its power would be lost or desecrated. In an act of desperate preservation, the relic was taken to a secret location within the Dumgay Mountains. There, deep within a hidden cave, the thundering drum was placed in the darkness, guarded by spirits and the silence of the earth. This African trail suggests that the Ark may have undergone a physical metamorphosis, shedding its regal appearance to survive the passage of time. It reinforces the idea that the power of the object was never in the gold that adorned it, but in the mystery contained within its frame. Yet, even as the Ngoma Lungundu sat in the shadows of Zimbabwe, another investigator was beginning to look much closer to home. Back in the city where it all began, a man was preparing to venture beneath the very soil where the blood of history was spilled, seeking a revelation that would link the ancient law to a moment of supreme sacrifice. The search was returning to Jerusalem, not to the heights of the Temple Mount, but to a humble garden where the world's destiny was once decided. The African savannas and the thundering drums of the Lemba fade into the background as the search for the Ark circles back to the epicenter of the faith. While some look to the distant horizons, a man named Ron Wyatt looked downward into the very bedrock of Jerusalem. Wyatt, a nurse by profession and an amateur archaeologist by obsession, did not seek the relic in the palaces of Ethiopia or the mist-shrouded hills of Scotland. Instead, he returned to the very soil where the blood of history was spilled. His investigation focused on a site just outside the old city walls, a place of execution known as Golgotha. Wyatt's theory was daring and visceral. He believed the Ark had been secreted away into a hidden cave directly beneath the future site of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, centuries before the event actually occurred in the world. The excavation began in the late 1970s and was defined by years of grueling, solitary labor. In the shadow of a limestone cliff known as the Garden Tomb, Wyatt and his small team burrowed through layers of ancient debris. The work was hazardous. The tunnels were narrow, suffocating, and prone to sudden collapse. For months, they moved buckets of earth and stone by hand, guided by Wyatt's unshakable conviction. He claimed to have identified the exact niches carved into the rock that once held the heavy wooden crosses of the condemned. But his most profound revelation lay deeper. In January 1982, after crawling through a passage so tight it threatened to pin him to the earth, Wyatt claimed to have broken through into a small, dry chamber. Inside, resting beneath rotted animal skins and the dust of 2 millennia, sat the golden chest of the covenant. The story Wyatt told upon his emergence was not merely one of archaeological discovery, but of cosmic synchronicity. He described a jagged crack in the ceiling of the chamber, a fissure that extended upward to the very spot where the central cross would have stood. According to his account, when the earth shook and the rocks rent at the moment of the sacrifice, this crack opened. The blood of the Messiah, flowing from his side, supposedly dripped down through the stone and onto the mercy seat of the Ark, hidden in the darkness below. This act, Wyatt argued, was the ultimate fulfillment of the ancient priestly rituals, a literal application of the blood of the new covenant onto the throne of the old. It was a narrative of staggering theological weight that promised to bridge the gap between the law and the gospel. However, the story immediately collided with the skepticism of the academic world and the reality of Middle Eastern geopolitics. Wyatt claimed to have taken samples of a dark substance from the mercy seat, asserting that laboratory tests revealed it to be human blood with a unique chromosomal count. Yet, these reports were never produced for public verification. No clear photographs of the Ark in its resting place were ever released, with Wyatt claiming that the images were mysteriously blurred or obscured by a radiant light that the camera could not capture. When the Israeli Antiquities Authority was questioned about the find, the response was a wall of silence and official denial. Rumors spread that the Israeli government, fearing the religious fallout that such a discovery would ignite, had moved in under the cover of night to seal the tunnel with reinforced concrete and iron. This total lack of physical evidence transformed Wyatt's claim into a polarized battleground of belief. To his followers, he was a humble man who had been chosen by God to witness the greatest miracle of the modern age. To his critics, he was a master of archaeological hoaxes, utilizing fragments of scripture and imaginative leaps to create a sensationalized tale for the devout. The ambiguity only deepened the shadow surrounding the relic. If Wyatt had indeed touched the golden wood beneath the garden tomb, its location would make it the most spiritually charged coordinate on the planet. If it was a fabrication, it remained one of the most enduring deceptions in history. As the tunnel remained sealed and the dust settled over the cliffside, the mystery of the Ark shifted from a physical pursuit into a profound trial of human faith, leaving the world to wonder if the Golden Throne was still there, waiting for the moment when the foundations of the earth would finally be laid bare once again. The echoes from the Garden Tomb and the silent tunnels of Jerusalem leave us standing at a crossroads where history, faith, and myth collide. This long, arduous journey across continents, from the hidden mechanical vaults built by King Solomon to the high, mist-shrouded plateaus of Ethiopia, and from the secret Templar excavations to the thundering drums of the Lemba, reveals a truth far more complex than a simple archaeological hunt. It was an object so powerful it could strike down armies or level the walls of ancient cities. The Ark of the Covenant is not merely a missing artifact, it is the ultimate symbol of the lost presence of the divine. Its disappearance from the records in 586 BC created a vacuum that humanity has been desperate to fill for 2 millennia. Whether it sits beneath the Temple Mount, guarded in Axum, or buried in a forgotten African cave, its power remains undiminished by its absence. The synthesis of these theories suggests that perhaps the Ark was never meant to be a permanent fixture in the physical world we inhabit. Some theologians and scholars argue that the mystery of its hiding place is a form of divine necessity. They propose a profound spiritual shift. The era of the golden box ended so that a new era of internal faith could begin. In this view, the Ark served its purpose as a tangible anchor for a young nation, acting as a throne for a presence that eventually outgrew any vessel made by human hands. The transition from law carved on stone tablets kept in a chest to a law written upon the human heart suggests that the Ark's essence has migrated. Finding the physical object today might actually hinder this spiritual evolution, pulling humanity back toward the worship of an idol rather than the pursuit of the infinite. Yet the world remains obsessed with the tangible, and this obsession carries a terrifying weight. In the realm of prophecy and global politics, the discovery of the Ark is viewed as the ultimate catalyst for the end of the age. Many traditions believe that the physical return of the Ark will trigger the construction of the Third Temple in Jerusalem. In a region fraught with centuries of blood, sacrifice, and tension, such an event would be a match dropped into a geopolitical powder keg. The search for the Ark is not just a quest for history, but a flirtation with the apocalypse. Its reappearance would demand a restructuring of the world's religious landscape, potentially igniting a conflict that could consume the modern world. Perhaps the silence of history is not an antagonist at all, but a protector, keeping the world safe from a power it is not yet ready to wield. This enduring mystery acts as a mirror, reflecting humanity's deepest desires and greatest fears. We seek the Ark because we long for a bridge between our mundane reality and the transcendent glory of the divine. We want proof that the stories of old were real, that the fire on the mountain and the parting of the seas were more than just metaphors. Every theory we have explored, the blood-stained mercy seat of Wyatt's claim, the radiation-scarred guardians of Ethiopia, and the priestly DNA of the Lemba serves as a testament to our refusal to let the sacred go. We are a species defined by our search for the source, even when that source remains hidden behind a veil of dust and official denials. The search itself becomes a pilgrimage, a way for each generation to grapple with the silence of God and the weight of ancient laws. As the sun sets over the limestone cliffs of Jerusalem and the shadows lengthen at the end of our journey, the final revelation remains out of reach. The Ark of the Covenant continues to exist in the liminal space between fact and folklore, a golden ghost haunting the collective memory of mankind. It reminds us that there are some things in this universe that are not meant to be owned, categorized, or placed in a museum. It is a warning from history that seeking the divine requires more than a shovel and a map. It requires a soul ready to stand in the presence of the Absolute. The question of its location may never be answered, and perhaps that is the greatest mercy of all. For if the golden lid were finally lifted and the stone tablets exposed to the light, would we find our salvation, or would we be utterly consumed? If you stood before it tomorrow in the silence of a hidden chamber, would you truly have the courage to touch the throne of God?